Hello, everyone. My name is Liz Barber. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Sebring Chamber of Commerce, and we have been contracted with the county to assist with the Small Business Relief Grant Program in regards to the Highlands CARES Act funds. So basically what that means is we are the technical assistance partner to make sure that small businesses and nonprofit organizations have all the information and all the help that they need and require to be able to complete the application correctly and to the best of their ability. So today what I'll do is go through and make sure that you have all the info you need to be prepared to apply online, and you have some of the most frequently asked questions answered before you go into the program. All right. So a little bit of information about the timeline of how this has all started to come down. So as you can see, when the CARES Act happened, the Treasury guidance came down for eligible expenditures in regards to the CARES Act. So once they did that, the governor was given some funds and he dispersed those to a number of counties with a population above 500,000. Then in June 10th, he made a plan to disperse the additional funds to the remaining 55 counties, including the rural counties like Highlands County. So we were notified around June 10th about that. So you can see things very quickly progressed from there. So there were some details that were presented to the Board of County Commissioners, and then there were 3 committee meetings that happened so within less than a month, a plan was presented to the Board of County Commissioners, and they went ahead and approved to move forward with the plan as presented. And less than a month later, the actual application went live. So that went live on April 3rd, 2020 for the Highlands CARES application, which means that there was a lot of moving and shaking in that short time period. On September 30th, a quarterly report will be sent to the state so they know how far, and it puts a little pressure on our county to get those funds spent. And the allocation has to be completely spent by December 30th. So a common question has been, what is the actual deadline to apply for these programs? And the only program that has a deadline is the Community Proposals Program, which is specific to nonprofit organizations. And that deadline is August 21st. All other programs don't have a specific deadline. We just suggest that you apply as soon as possible. So to show you some funding for each category, so you have an idea of how this all plays out, the county was given the first 25% of the grant. The entire funds that Highlands County will receive is about $18.7 million, but they have received the first 25%, which you can see I've got here on the bottom. So they can only tap into the remaining 75% should they spend all of these funds. So right now, we are trying our absolute best to make sure as many people as possible that qualify for these programs are out there applying so citizens of Highlands County can get these funds and stir up our economy. So you can see the for-profit businesses were assigned $1.75 million. And the nonprofit businesses or organizations have 250,000. So that's about 40%, just over 40% of the first 25% funds. There are individual funds of 1.25 million, and those are grants of $1,500 each. So that's a lot of people that we can assist using that. There's the Community Proposals Program. That is for nonprofit organizations that have had some type of program that affects citizens of Highlands County that's COVID related, where they're able to help people. So that's a really great way for nonprofits to submit for that, to be able to assist people with things they either did since March 17th or plans that they have going forward to assist with people. And of course, there's a few other buckets like the PPE, additional testing, and administration and government expenses there as well. The 2 that we'll talk about today are the 2 that are in bold, the for-profit businesses and the nonprofit businesses. That's what we'll be focusing on because that is our main point of focus that the Chamber is assisting with. So the small business and nonprofit grant funding, we have a number of different tiers depending on your number of employees. So you have the $2,000 is where it starts. So if you are a small business, a mom and pop per se, where you've got 0 to 5. So if you are a hairstylist, as a great example, and you don't have any employees, you would fall under this $2,000 grant. And then, of course, it's going to go up based on the numbers of employees. And you will use a W-3 or a 941 to prove the number of employees that you have, but you'll choose which category fits you best when you do the application. Some things to consider. So these funds are given directly to the businesses. The funds don't go to your mortgage company, your power company. It's nothing like that. It will go directly to your business with a mailed check to the address that you provide. If you receive the PPP or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you are still eligible to qualify for this, regardless of whether you applied for or received the PPP or the EIDL. So that's great to know as well. The applicant must be negatively impacted by COVID-19 as of March 17th. So what that means is you have to have some type of negative impact, and your business must have existed before March 17th. So if your business started in May as a reaction to COVID-19 and you were trying to come up with some new type of business, this program you would not qualify for that. You'd need to exist before March 17th. So you also, if you own more than one business, you can apply for up to 2 businesses or organizations. So that's possible too. So you can do that all in one place under one username and password. The funds can be used to cover business costs. So that means one of 2 things. No, you can't buy a Ferrari with your $2,000 that you're getting. And, if you have some expenses like paying a distributor for product, or you need to pay, 4 months back on your light bill or your water bill, that's okay. You can use it for any legitimate business cost, and you don't need to prove to anyone what you're using those for unless that came down to an audit perspective, if that happened. So, make sure you have legitimate business expenses, but you don't have to prove anything after the fact once you receive your grant of how you're using those funds. A nonprofit can submit an application for both the Nonprofit Assistance Program, which is the Small Business Relief Grant, and the community proposals. So if you're doing something really great for the community, you have a drive-through food bank, and you've been doing that, and that costs, say, $25,000 to put together for 3 months. You can do a community proposals program for that, and you can apply for the program that depends on how many employees that your organization has. Those are 2 completely different things, and you can apply for both. There's one application for small businesses and the same application for nonprofits. So it doesn't change if you have a church, it's the same application as if you had a small business. And you can apply online Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. And I should mention that it's very important to know the website to apply at is highlandscares.com. Highlands, HIGHLANDSCARES.com. And then, of course, I do want to mention that we've noticed one thing you want to notice. Your business address, I'll give you a little trick of the trade here. It's a little side thing to know. It can be a little quirky when you are applying, so it will try to pre-fill your address. Just remember that less is more when it comes to your address. We'd highly suggest putting in the street number and your zip code, and then it will likely populate your address automatically there. That way, sometimes if you put too much information, people are having problems with it not recognizing your address. So a little trick of the trade there for you. So, do I qualify and what makes me not eligible for this program? It's pretty straightforward, which is really great to know. Applicants must have had 75 or fewer employees, and that includes your employer, on March 17th. And again, you'll use your W-3 or your 941 forms from your payroll company to show those numbers. You have to have been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 emergency, and your business has to have a principal location in Highlands County and legally operating in Highlands County prior to March 17th, 2020. What makes you not eligible? If you are a publicly traded company or hedge fund, that kind of would count out your large businesses like your Walmarts and your Home Depots. And it helps make sure that it's actually going towards locally funded or local businesses. If your company or organization has legal action with the county, you would not be eligible. I have been told specifically by the county that code enforcement liens have been laxed now in terms of qualifying for this program. So kind of ignore that code enforcement liens portion. That no longer makes you ineligible. It would just be if you have legal action with the county at this time. And if you are a 501c6 nonprofit organization, if you are involved with lobbying, you would not qualify for this. You can be a 501c6, but you cannot be a lobbying organization. So as long as you qualify for those two things, this is kind of your meat and potatoes of what you need to pull together to make sure that you're able to apply efficiently for this grant. Should you be able to show these things and pull things together, it should be pretty straightforward for your approval for this. So documentation that you need. You need a copy of the driver's license for the business owner or business leaders. That's very important to have, first of all. So, for example, if you have a business that has 6 people that are owners, I would take the owner that has the highest percentage of ownership and make that your primary, and make sure that you have the ID, or that you're applying, that individual is the one applying and they have their ID there. You'd also need an active status on SunBiz, or a copy of your municipal business license, or a copy of your Schedule C. So what this is doing is basically they're asking you to make sure that you can prove that you really are in business and you're not just saying you are. So an active status on your business registration on sunbiz.org, sunbiz.org, you should be able to search and pull up a copy of your LLC or your corporation, etc. Now, a great example is someone who, again, is a hairstylist. They likely do not have an LLC, and they likely file their taxes under their Social Security number. So they would be able to show a copy of their Schedule C showing those business expenses that they have. Or you can have a copy of your municipal business license, and that would only happen or be effective if you are within the city limits of Sebring, Lake Placid, or Avon Park and have a municipal business license that's required for your business. But most businesses, we haven't had a real problem with not being able to come up with one of these 3 things. If you're having challenges, please reach out and let us know so we can assist you. The next thing that you need is a W-9 form. It sounds really intimidating, but it's really pretty straightforward. A W-9 form is a verification of your EIN number or your Social Security number that you use for business. So if you have an EIN number, likely you'll be very aware that you have an EIN number. If you normally file your taxes individually under your social, you'll use your Social Security number on that W-9 form. And you'll have your business name or your name, your address, and then you'll sign and date there. That form's very easy to fill out. It's a 1-page form, and it can be found if you just do a web search of IRS W-9 form, and you should be able to print a blank 1-page form and complete that. For businesses with 2 or more employees, Again, I mentioned earlier, to prove the number of employees that you have, you'll have a W-3 summary or an IRS 941. Likely you'll get those from your payroll company or however you do your payroll, but that's going to be your quarterly filing or your annual summary showing how many employees you have on average. And we suggest that you use your fourth quarter 941s because it's a good likelihood that towards the end of March, you may have already had to furlough or make changes in your employment schedules. So it may be more difficult to use your first quarter to do that, to justify the number of employees that you had prior to March 17th. So either your fourth quarter 941 or your first quarter 941 for 2020. I should also mention, again, if you don't have 2 employees or more, and again, we'll use the hairstylist as an example, that individual is likely not going to have employees per se, so that would not be required for you to show. So when you do fill out the application online, you will have an option to upload the W-3 or the 941. And should you not have any employees, that is optional field to upload, so you would just skip right over that since it is optional and would not apply to you if you have if it's just one employee. You'd also need your total income or your revenue for 2019. A lot of people will use their Schedule C to help them determine that from their taxes, and that would be your total sales or income revenue prior to any of your expenses. So that is a gross number that you'll be using. You could also, if you haven't filed your taxes, you could also use a report from, say, your cash register for the entire year to be able to tell you what your sales were for the year. So that would be your sales, income, revenue, etc. Your average monthly expenses are the final items that you'll need, and in this case, they want monthly expenses, and these are going to be average monthly expenses. So obviously your utilities to the penny are not going to be the same every month, but this is a good average. So what we've suggested to people is if you don't have like a QuickBooks or a software that you can pull this up very easily and look, grab your February bank statement, since this is based on prior to March 17th, and you can add some things up that way. So you can kind of back into these numbers. So your salaries would be your first, lease or mortgage is the second, utilities, which would be your power, water, phone, and internet, and any other business expenses, which would be everything else on your February statement. That's your catch-all bucket. So if you need any assistance with pulling those numbers together, let us know. We can help with that too. So once you have all of those things together, you are ready to apply. You will be prepared to do that. So the application is online. So you can see here that is step 1. If you have challenges with your application, that's what the local partner is for, and that's the Chamber of Commerce for the business and small business and nonprofit. So we are the local partner for technical assistance. You would only need to reach out to us if you needed help. So technically there really should be a little arrow that kind of goes around us if needed. So you don't have to stop to us if you don't need us, but we are absolutely here to help with anything that you may need if you're not able to complete the online application. So once your application is all done, it will go to the Economic Development Office for first review. Then it will go to the Grants Coordinator for review. The final review is the Clerk of Court's office, and then the check is cut. So if there are any challenges that are beyond, fix A, B, and C, or can you provide more information on this? If there are some major issues with your application, or you're really unable to show some of those main requirements, you may be referred to the Small Business Development Center or to SCORE, depending if you're a for-profit or a nonprofit organization. And that'll be to help you kind of reorganize some things that you may need to do to make sure that you might qualify for other things in the future. And the best part about this, as you can see this little process here, once you have done your online application, you'll be required to come up with a username and password. And after your application has been submitted, You can log back in there at any time and see exactly which group here for these 3 sign-offs, where your application is at. It will say first review, second review, and it will also tell you if you've been completed and approved and if the funds have been dispersed. So you'll be able to check that at any given time, 24/7 on the website, so you'll know exactly what's happening with your application. So if some of these things, you really feel like they may be over your head or you need help, that is exactly what we're here for. So if you need help with your application, we've been contracted to assist applicants with the process. So whether that be help with gathering and reviewing the documents, if you don't have a scanner, you don't have an access to a computer, you just want to talk to a real person, or you just want assurance that your application is complete and things are looking right and that you're doing what you need to be doing, any of those reasons or more are reasons to come and see us. You do not need to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce for us to help you, so don't let that stop you at all. We have in-person, over the phone, and email assistance available. Our phone number is 863-385-8448. We have an in-person location at 227 US 27 North in Sebring. That's Central Sebring, and it is across from the Gate gas station, across the highway from that. It's also in the plaza where Five Guys Burgers and Food for Thought is located. And you can email us at highlandscaresact@sebring.org. And if you're not doing a business application or a nonprofit application, but you do know someone or you need to complete an individual application and you need help, you can contact the United Way. They've been contracted to help with the individual applications, and you can just dial 211 for assistance with that. Again, here's ways to contact us. We hope that we'll be able to assist you in every way possible. Our office is here Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We have people standing by to assist you. So if you need anything, give us a ring. Our number one priority is to make sure that we're helping you get this together, because if you qualify and you fall into those eligibility requirements, you certainly deserve those if you've been negatively impacted and deserve those grants. So we want to make sure that we can help you with that. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you soon.